All right, guys. Normally, this is the part where I would say, "Here we go again," and it is time for another one of our Evolution Consulting market updates. But it is neither of those things. This is the first of the Evolution Consulting info updates that we're doing, and the reason we've chosen to do effectively two different series. Obviously, you guys have seen the market update videos already, or if you haven't, feel free to check them out. But this is the info updates that we're going to do are primarily for research information that we see that we may not have a specific trade for, or may not be capital market specific or global economic specific. Just stuff that we research, a lot of which the deep level stuff really appears in our monthly, which is Wirehouse. But when we see some really strong information, or we see some any kind of stuff that's really relevant to understanding economics, relevant to understanding what's going on in terms of global capital markets, but we may not have a specific trade for, again, current events updates. This is where we're going to do them. So we shouldn't be, especially given the fact that we're heading into election 2016 and the general debates and all that fun stuff. We certainly shouldn't be for lack of fodder, so to speak. But in the meantime, real quick, before we get into that, and that is the subject of this first inaugural, if you will, Evolution Consulting Info Update, which is the election and a lot of the information that we've seen pertaining to. Did want to make reference to one specific thing, a little bit of self-promotion. We are going to be moving forward with our kind of independent, we didn't quite really have a format for it, not quite sure what to do with it kind of thing. We are going to be moving forward with our little nuclear options show, so to speak. We kind of figured out how we're going to do that. So check back on our site within the next day or two, and there'll be some information there. But suffice to say, in the words of a currently a Fox News pundit mainstay, we're gonna do it live, so to speak. So we're really kind of excited about that. But in the meantime, guys, oh, before I forget, yesterday, or today I should say, yesterday evening, Sunday evening, the first inaugural edition of Switch and Signal went out. So kudos to everybody that signed up for that. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that already. We had a heck of a time putting the first inaugural edition together, and already we're not going to talk about the trades in those. We may kind of tweet brag about those, if you want to call it that, about some of the trades that are in Switch and Signal, but those are for our subscribers, so we may only post about those after the fact. But a lot of the stuff we picked out for Switch and Signal, I mean, it's already even just a day into it. I mean, it's obviously it's very early, but it's already looking good. But the point of the story, though, let's talk about something that matters, I suppose, which is the election that's going on and some of the information that we've seen. And for those of you that listened to our stuff during our test of concept phase, or listened to our stuff when we were doing the so-called alt-right news community interviews, whatever, professional guest, as it were, you know that we are politically atheistic. We vote for money. That's it. I vote for my bank account, period. At the end of the day, guys, I really don't care who wins this election, okay? And I think a lot of people that are approaching this election and approaching the world just from a purely economics perspective would tend to agree with me on that. I don't really care who wins, because this purpose of this election is becoming more and more apparent, okay? And it's got less to do with democracy and more to do with a body count, as I've so often said. And the reality is, what we're seeing in terms of information is that this is absolutely, without question, the most systemically destructive election that this nation has ever seen. Now, that could be a product of a number of things. That could be a product of a constant 24-hour news cycle. That could be the product of just who the candidates happen to be, or it can be the product of a far deeper series, not just one series of social issues. I've often said a disaster is never just one thing. A disaster is a series of things that go wrong or right, depending upon how you're looking at it. Many of those things, one right after the other. Okay, if you're familiar with the way a building is imploded, okay, it's not just one charge that brings it down. It's, many that go off in a very precise order and all that fun stuff. So, that being said, I mean, we're looking at this election and some of the information that we're seeing in terms of statistical distribution, standard distribution, if you guys are familiar with that, is that, I mean, even the Obama election, you were maybe one and a half standard deviations away from what would normally be seen in terms of social divisiveness. This election, we don't even want to even use that analogy because we've already gone, and the general debates haven't even started yet. The real general election, hasn't gotten underway yet. We're already many standard deviations away from what would be considered statistically normal in terms of a social paradigm for a U.S. election, because we're not talking about candidates just killing each other in terms of rhetoric within a system. Okay, and I mean, you can go all the way back to like 92 or 96, 92, and I mean, you had that circus show with Bill Clinton and Ross Perot and all that. Yeah, that was a bit of a circus election, and so was the Obama election. But the reality of the situation is, guys, those were contained within a political system. There were rules of do's and don'ts, and that whole thing kind of took place within an established political hierarchy and infrastructure. What's going on now is actually destructive to that kind of two-party American politics paradigm hierarchy. Okay, now again, that could be the product of just underlying social conditions, and that could be the product of many different things. We're not going to get into that here. That's for Wirehouse. But the fact of the matter is, guys, I personally, and I've kind of joked around about this on Twitter a bunch of times. They say there's truth in every joke. I personally couldn't sit, even with my very devious mind that I have, I couldn't sit and script an election more destructive to a political paradigm, not just Republican and Democrat, but more destructive to a two-party system and a methodology of thinking in the United States. I couldn't script something more destructive if you sat down and gave me all the money in the world. All right? It's a fact. What we're seeing here with Trump and Hillary and the rhetoric going back and forth, and I mean Trump, I'll be the first to admit it. Do I kind of want to see him win? Yeah, I do a little bit. Again, we're politically atheistic, but from an economics perspective, from a trader's perspective, from an investment perspective, that guy breathes volatility. Okay, and that's how money is made. All right, and you see a lot of our chaos plays, a lot of our civil defense plays, a lot of our individual tactical defense plays. He will be great for all of those. So from an entertainment perspective, I suppose, and from an economics perspective, yeah, we do want to see Trump win. There, we said it. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, what's going on now is destructive to a political paradigm. And I said what we could be witnessing, guys, could be history. And we're seeing the kind of information off of Evolution 4.0 to indicate that we may be seeing the end of a two-party system in the United States. I mean, what he did to his own party. All right, there's a term in video game culture, guys. It's when you kill somebody on your own team. During the Vietnam War, it was called fragging someone. If you had somebody you didn't like and you want to get rid of them, you shot them. You fragged them. Video gaming, modern colloquialistic video game terming, guys, is called team killing. Okay, and what he did to his own party was he repossessed it. He commandeered it. He created his own third party. He repurposed the GOP is what he did. I often kind of joke around as a computer guy, say if you leave a bunch of junk hardware sitting around, real nerds eventually will find something to do with it. We'll tinker around and make it work, fix it or whatever, but we call that repurposing. What he did was repurpose an entire political party, and to be quite honest with you guys, based upon the information that we've seen, and we forecasted this, I mean, over a year ago, some of it, not specifically, we won't go so far as to say that, but he is in a scorched earth kind of really take no prisoners mode. And we forecasted, we said months ago, as one thing we did forecast specifically was months ago, we said he's the BRICS nation's chosen candidate. He's China's chosen candidate. He's Russia's chosen candidate. And now all of a sudden, a little bit of scandal starts, and all of a sudden it's, oh, look, Trump could have connections with Russia. Oh, do tell. Of course he's going to win. All right? The reality is he very well may be handpicked. Don't know. But certainly there are a lot of people out there that want to see him win, apparently, and a lot of very powerful people that want to see him win. So, again, from an investment perspective, we're kind of hoping that's true. But nonetheless, guys, the real story is how divisive this election has been from a social perspective and from certainly a systemic political perspective. And that's the big one that we're trying to convey, is that we're not talking about just Republican versus Democrat. No, they're going to go at it like they do every year. Guys, they're starting to bring in question the credibility of the media. I mean, openly. 10 years ago, that would have never happened. All right, especially if you have a candidate like Trump that's just out openly saying it. All right, that's huge. It's kind of been one of those things that's been unspoken and kind of understood, but never really brought out mainstream. And what we're discovering is that he's feeding off of an anger in the United States. All right, and he's not the only one. There's other nationalistic leaders there that are rising to power along the same kind of path that he's going, very effectively so. But he's feeding off of an anger that is the product of politically correct speech in the United States. You could say white guilt, if that's a phrase that can be used, right? He's feeding off of a lot of the things that are spoken of around American dinner tables, and again, because of the politically correct society that we live in, yet remain unspoken openly. And he's just coming out and going like, well, there it is, and how do you like that? All right? So what he is doing, he's tapping the thing that all individual statesmen or statesman-like leaders, even Putin, have tapped, is that unspoken or unquantifiable reality is really what it is. This is the way things really are. You can say, and George Carlin was a master of it. You can euphemize language all you want, but at the end of the day, there is a reality that is happening. And, you can look in the United States and you can see, 50, 60, 70 years of well, not 70, but 50 years or 40 years of politically correct culture, starting with the kind of the 1960s and progressing certainly through the 70s and the 80s and then getting out of control in the 90s, and now it's just ridiculous. But that politically correct, oppressive culture of diversity, culture of, what I call, everybody special in their own special little group kind of thing. All right, he's a consequence for that. He is a consequence. If I had to use one word to describe him as a candidate, consequences. He is what happens when you have a politically correct culture. You do have forced diversity. And I'm all for, that kind of stuff, diversity. I personally don't judge anybody by, the color of their skin or anything like that. And this is speaking outside of, obviously, of Evolution 4.0. But it's, it's what's between your ears, dude. Really is what it comes down to. So, but he is consequences as a candidate. And you can kind of see that in his voting base. You can see that in his delivery methods. He is consequences. I call him almost the inevitable. You had to expect at some point in the United States, for that forced diversity and that soft and touchy-feely culture, eventually somebody like him was going to rise to power. It's just a pendulum swinging back the other way. All right? So, like it or not, and I like it, honestly, from an investment and a trading perspective, his election win or his win of the presidency can result in chaos on a scale that, I'm not even going to attempt to describe. All right. Again, a little bit of a plug here for Wirehouse, but this last month's June-July edition and this month's edition of Wirehouse really sum up socially what's going on in the United States in a level of detail that I don't think a lot of people can really handle. I'm thankful I don't have any emotion because I could look at it and just go, oh, how do we make the trade? That's what I'm here for, guys. But the reality is, okay, the divisiveness of this election, and we're talking about just primaries, okay, two-party primaries. When him and Hillary start going at it on stage, guys, it's going to be, if you gave me $1 billion and sat me down and said, script an election that will lead to absolute chaos in the United States, the destruction of a political paradigm, and the circumstances necessary to institute a new financial order. That's how you do it. That's just, it doesn't get any better than that. Really. That's what it's coming down to, is all the groups killing each other off. And I've said that often, and if you guys listen to the alt-right community or whatever, and you hear like, oh, they're going to go door to door, they're going to take our guns away, they're going to, they're going to confiscate guns, it's going to be 1984. No, it's not. It isn't. It just isn't. All right? The writing is on the wall, guys. It's not 1984. It's not the Big Brother police state. It's please let all the idiots kill each other so there can be minimal management required, okay? And as out there as that may sound, that's really kind of what we're heading towards. And if you don't believe that, I say don't believe anything because I don't. But if you need to see evidence of that, just look at the institutional money that's moving into Strum Ruger. Look at the institutional money that's moving into Taser. Look at the institutional money that's moving into Smith & Wesson. Okay, there's a reason for that. That's the buy more guns trade. Okay, that's just us ahead of a trend that happened. All right, as we so often are. But we do have a few more of those in there in Switch and Signal. But those chaos plays, guys, you don't move that kind of money into a chaos play unless you have every intention of the world of orchestrating, or at least engineering, a reordering of the United States. Now, whether or not I'm for that or against it, hey, I fail to see what's so great about the old world order. So the point of the story, though, this election, based upon what we've seen, guys, is really just a demolition charge to a current paradigm, a current political system. All right. So again, whether or not that's good or bad, do I agree with it? Do we not agree with it? Do other members of the Evolution dev team agree or disagree with it? It doesn't matter. It's happening. And the object of the game now is to prosper from it, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help with that. So, guys, hope you've enjoyed this first info update. All right, we're going to be doing a bunch more of these as usual. We'll start, flashing the Twitter and the email graphics up across the screen. They should be somewhere over there. But the point of the story hopefully you guys enjoyed this piece. Because we're probably not gonna do as many of these as we do the market update. But when we do come upon information that's really, that's kind of it. We'll post it here. But again, most of our deep level stuff goes into Wirehouse. And for those of you who have not yet subscribed to Switch and Signal, please do. We've already gotten some great feedback from just a prelim edition. So, we're excited. We're enjoying what we're doing. And stay tuned to evolutionconsulting.world. You'll see what we're going to be doing with our show, The Nuclear Option. All right, and looks like based upon a couple of emails I've just taken a look through, we'll be doing some mainstream or semi-mainstream financial talk radio. Again, I did the alt-right news thing for a year or two during our test of concept phase, and it was, it's frustrating. And I hope people understand. It's frustrating on my part when it's you present the information and it's been proven correct and it's solid, and it's just people have no idea what to do with it there. So, that being said, guys, again, thank you very much. As always, be good. Everything is a transaction.